Back in the late 90s, Captain America was paralyzed by his super soldier serum and was basically like a vegetable until Tony Stark created this. A Captain America exosuit that looks like a big blue metal football uniform. Isn't it badass? Everybody has armor. Spider-Man, the Thing. Look at his weird mask. Anyway, that's just a little comic history lesson if you're wondering why Cap is wearing this terrible costume. Released in 1996, written by Marky Mark Waid, with art by Ron Garney, this is Captain America Operation Rebirth. Here's a little prologue to get caught up with this Captain America series, and this was actually the last issue of this Captain America series written by Mark Gruenwald before Mark Waid came in and took over. Captain America lies limp in an alley when this walking stereotype called the Black Crow picks him up and tells Cap about a vision he had. In 24 hours, his super soldier serum will stop his heart, and he will die. Then he turns into a bird and deuces. Then it suddenly starts raining, so with 24 hours to live, Captain America goes skydiving, scuba diving, Evel Knievel, stunt car driving. I can't. Captain America flies through the city when he spots Nefarious, but that isn't important right now because who gives a shit about him? He's gonna die in like 4 years. And then Cap heads to his Brooklyn headquarters where he finds Jack Flag and Free Spirit, one of whom will later be murdered by an evil Captain America from another reality. Cap heads for his quarters where he keeps an American flag, a desk for work and drawing, dumbbells, jump rope, and a framed photograph of Bucky Barnes. He opens his trunk and finds a photo of Sharon Carter, who has apparently burned to death. Cap gives everybody a rundown of his impending death and gives his team documents to read, and then takes off. Then he goes to Avengers Mansion, and a holographic projection of Peggy Carter appears and tells him that there's someone trying to break in outside. With 10 hours left to live, Captain America finds Batroc tied up by metal tentacles, and Batroc's like,
"Cool, Captain America! This is how you treat all your guests? Is that metal armor you are wearing? It does not look good."
"What do you want, Batroc? I'm kind of busy here." Batroc explains that he came for Cap's help, and Steve invites him inside to have some tea. After he takes a sip, Batroc's like,
"What troubles you, my foe?"
Cap tells Batroc that he's dying tonight from a heart condition, and Batroc's like,
"Oh, do you want to hang out some more? Oui, I can do that."
But Steve finally coaxes him into leaving. He goes upstairs and falls asleep in his big-ass armor. And later Jarvis comes upstairs and finds Steve lying in his bed. He calls the current team of Avengers to the mansion. Quicksilver, Crystal from the Inhumans, Hercules, Hank Pym as Giant Man, and Black Widow. And they find him gone. It's just his empty armor. And then Quicksilver runs to the window and looks out and sees a bird flying away. 2 weeks later, and the Avengers still haven't told anybody about Cap's disappearance. Later at the Jefferson Memorial, this FBI agent named McElroy yells at the Avengers for being late and tells them that armored terrorists kidnapped the president and 3 secret servicers, and all that they want in exchange is Captain America. So Quicksilver's like, "You know I can move really, really fast, right? I'll be back, losers." Which, like, duh. Is there really any reason to have anyone else on the Avengers if Quicksilver's there? I mean, yeah, he's kind of a dick, but... Quicksilver races inside and snatches one of the hostages and runs away when the hostage taker blows up. That's right, the hostage takers have bombs set so that, I don't know, the combined weight of the suit, the terrorist, and the hostage shifts in any way, they blow the hell up. At least, like, a giant boulder doesn't suddenly appear above them. McElroy is like, "What is wrong with you people? I was literally just telling you about the bombs. Why don't you wait until I finish speaking until you run in there so brazenly?" Then he holds up a little television that the terrorists are using to send a message, and they all form around and create an aura around themselves, somehow, I guess from their armor, so that if one of them dies, they all die. And McElroy's like, what is some old-fashioned superhero to these guys anyway? What's so special about Captain America? Nice headband, Hercules. And if you're wondering who the fuck this woman is, her name is Deathcry, but who cares about her? She's been dead since 2011, where she died off-panel. Then the Avengers comically lean at McElroy, and they all point their fingers at him and, like, snarl their teeth or whatever, and they're like, "You watch your mouth! Don't you dare speak like that about Captain America, you son of a bitch!" Then we get a history lesson of Captain America. Meanwhile, some cops dress up another cop as Captain America and make him ride towards the memorial, but he's shot at, so Deathcry runs out and saves him. And I guess McElroy has just never heard of Captain America or something, so he asks for a history lesson, and Hercules, rocking a yellow headband, long flowing locks, and an anarchy tank top, runs up and gives him yet another history lesson with a splash page. Then Black Widow and Deathcry come over to everybody else, and she explains that while these fucking idiots were over here yammering, Deathcry told her and Crystal about something at the memorial that they can use to their advantage. And then the Avengers race into action, and holy triangular breastises! At the memorial, Crystal shoots water out of the ground, and which launches the hostages into the air, where they are caught by Giant Man. Then, either Crystal or Hercules throws a giant boulder at the gold-plated terrorists, and Crystal uses her air powers to toss them into the Potomac River, where they will all die horribly. Then Quicksilver goes onto a monologue as one of the terrorists somehow sneaks up behind him and grabs him. But then he has the back of his skull caved in by Captain America's shield. But it's just Agent What's-His-Name. The Avengers and McElroy leave the memorial and run into a giant mob of people and reporters who apparently broke past the police line and start asking why the hell Cap didn't show up. Then Black Widow reveals that he was dying, and then he disappeared. Cut to whatever the hell this place is supposed to be. Legions of knockoff Borgs walk down the hall and find, oh, for fuck's sake, they froze him again. Cut to the somberness of Captain America's funeral. 6 pallbearers carry his coffin. Cyclops, Black Widow, Ben Grimm, The Thing, Rick Ross, Quicksilver, and Bill Clinton. As the coffin is lowered into the ground, Cap breaks free of the ice. Again. And he wakes up in a laboratory. Again. But this time he thinks he's in heaven. And he finds his shield sitting around and is like, huh, feels different. Maybe gravity is heavier in heaven. I mean, it makes sense. They share at least 4 of the same letters. But then a large voice says, "Step along, Captain. We haven't time for you to linger around." Cap's like, "Okay, God, if you say so." Gee, she sure sounds pissed. Cap walks down a giant hallway and finds a screen with photos and images of his mother and Bucky. 2 people he failed to save. And then he finds the owner of this mysterious voice. Sharon Carter, in a very form-fitting latex suit. Cap runs up to her and he's like, "Sharon, I don't believe this. You've been dead for so many years. Oh, how I've missed you." And Sharon's like, hands off. She then reveals that she and a med crew stole Captain America from the mansion and then shot him up with ice guns to cryogenically freeze him until they made a cure for his serum. Just like Walt Disney. But then they just gave him a complete fluid transfusion. Like, did he get someone else's piss? Then Cap asks how much serum is still in him, and Sharon's like, let's find out, and unleashes scientist ninjas. So Cap fights the intellectual assassins, but he's dogpiled on and gives up. And Cap's like, "What have you done to me?" And Sharon tells him to calm the hell down before she opens this weird giant portal door and tells Cap that they were scheduled to meet with their benefactor, who also happens to be expecting Cap. Cap says he is not going anywhere, especially not to meet a benefactor. And Sharon says that the fate of the world is at stake. So he begrudgingly straps on his shield and is like, fine. And then they jump into the portal. They end up 70 miles west of Green Bay and are ambushed by cheeseheads with laser guns. They fight, and Cap thinks to himself that he can feel the same rush the super soldier serum gave him when he first got it, and theorizes that it's still somewhere in him. Which means that only one person could possibly share the same type of enhanced blood that Steve does. Someone else who has been injected with a super soldier serum. No, not Isaiah Bradley. Or Roger Aubrey, aka Destroyer. Or Nazi Captain America, Masterman. Or Black Widow. Or Union Jack. Or William Burnside, who was the 4th Captain America. Or Anti-Cap. What kind of stupid name is that? It was the Red Skull! The Red Skull asks how it feels knowing that his life is now owed to his greatest enemy, and Cap goes for a punch, but Red Skull bitch slaps him just like Thanos did in the Infinity Gauntlet. Skull says that Cap is indebted to him and that they have a common enemy. Then Steve gets up and yells at Sharon, if that is her real name, and gets right in her face and demands to know what the hell is going on here. But Sharon's being cryptic, and Cap screams at her to stop being so cryptic. Then a bright light flashes on them. Then they're teleported to another reality or something, or it's a hidden hologram, or like a pocket dimension, I don't know. And Sharon tells Cap, welcome to the new fatherland. Welcome to World War III. The three of them race through this weird sci-fi compound in search of the Cosmic Cube. Which in the comics is not the Space Stone. It's a bunch of, there are a lot of cosmic cubes, man. Anyway, they sneak inside and discover the Cube Cult, a new rank of Nazis who are going to bring Hitler back with their cosmic cube. And Cap's like, but Hitler died in 45. No. Technically, Hitler was still alive in the Marvel Universe. You see, his mind was transferred into a clone body, and then he took the name Hatemonger, and he wore this purple Ku Klux Klan outfit with a giant H on it, but that character's been dead for 18 years at the time of this recording, so who gives a shit. Cap says that the cube can't revive the dead, and Sharon tells him that Hitler is inside the cube. Dun dun dun. Flashback time. Red Skull explains that he and Hatemonger teamed up a few years ago to create a new cosmic cube, but Skull was double-crossed, so he trapped Hitler in the cosmic cube, but then the cube was stolen by the Cube Cult. So Cap reluctantly leaps into battle, and Red Skull goes for the cube, but Cap knocks it away. Then Sharon goes for the cube, but her cheek gets broken by the butt of a rifle. Then someone drops a grenade, and when Cap and Skull rise from the smoke, they spot the cult flying away. Meanwhile, Sharon interrogates some guy, and he's like, why are you doing this? I thought you were with us. Sharon reveals that she just went undercover as Fraulein Rogers, and then gets the location of the cult out of the cult member she was beating the shit out of, and then they leave. The trio comes up to a compound, and Cap tells the others to stay inside while he handles the soldiers. But then the Red Skull comes out anyway, and all the soldiers attack them. Fight, fight, fight. Then a general holds Cap at gunpoint and tells him to stand down, or he can consider himself a traitor to his country. Then Cap slams him in the face with his shield and races inside, where he finds the Cosmic Cube. Meanwhile, Sharon and Red Skull fight the cult. And anyway, I guess Cap didn't have time to grab the cube before it exploded or something, because that reactor or generator blows the hell up, and Cap and Skull look outside to discover that the cube has transformed the American troops into evil cult soldiers. They're shot at, and Cap discovers that both the cube and Sharon are gone. Steve says that this installation is a half-mile underground, and that Sharon has to be in there somewhere, and then they realize that the shooting has stopped. And then, giant out-of-focus mechs walk towards them. And you know what, I really do like that blur effect that they used on the background figures. It just makes the pictures feel more alive. So they attack, and as Cap is pounced on by giant golden mechs, huh, sounds familiar. Too bad those terrorists are never elaborated on. And Red Skull runs away. But then an energy lasso wraps around his neck, and he gets his shit kicked in by cult members. Then he spits in a guy's face, somehow, and as they prepare to shoot him down, Cap leaps in front of the bullets with his shield. Then he beats their asses. And Cap's like, that debt I owed you, we're even. Then something explodes. Cap falls down however many levels, where he finds Sharon and the cube. Then the catwalk they stand on gives out. Sharon says that the essence of the cube will soon rewrite all reality, and the only way to override the cube's Nazi influence is with her own. That's right, the Cosmic Cube is a neo-Nazi. Steve says, Sharon, you're making the world conform to your vision, changing reality to fit your image. That isn't for you to decide. Sharon says that he's right. It's for Captain America to decide. Also, Red Skull's there too. Cap doesn't take it, and Sharon's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And as Red Skull crawls his way up, the cube begins to glow again, and Cap grabs it from Sharon's hand. And then I guess Cap turns her into her old look, because, I don't know, Cap hates her new hairstyle or something, and he says, all right, I'll start now. I've decided that you're not getting the cube, Skull. It belongs to no one. Cube, I order you to self-destruct. Oh, no, 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 no! The Red Skull catches the cosmic cube, and Cap slams into him like a professional diver, and then he retrieves the cube from the Red Skull's broken body and crushes it in his hand. A voice exclaims that they did it! They stopped the Red Skull! And Cap says that it took the two of them, but he couldn't have done it without his partner. Bucky Barnes! It looks like Cap turned Sharon into his best chum, Bucky. The two shake hands and the picture fades out until it's revealed that Steve Rogers' essence was trapped within the cosmic cube, and it is now wielded by the Red Skull. Steve wakes up on the operating table for the Operation Rebirth experiment, and after the transformation is complete, Steve actually manages to save Dr. Erskine from his would-be assassin, who is then arrested. Also, then Bucky shows up. Meanwhile, Skull looks into the cube, which acts as, I guess, a six-sided television, and says that the mind of Hitler is still inside the cube somewhere trying to change the world. I really hope Hitler is actually Bucky. Sharon asks if Skull wants Cap to face Hitler because he's too scared to, so Red Skull punches her. Then the cult finds them, and Skull discovers that the power of the cube doesn't work, so they run away and hide in an armory. You see, once Cap in the cube faces and defeats Hitler, his will shall crumble, and the Red Skull will control the cosmic cube and the world. Within the cube, Cap and Bucky fight some Nazis, and Cap demands to know where Hitler's location is. And as the Razzie is about to reveal it, Bucky shows up, and the Nazis disappear, and they're back in Steve's old neighborhood. Oh, Bucky is definitely Hitler. Then Steve's mom shows up, and he gives her a hug, and Steve tells her that he loved her with all of his heart, and asks if she knew. And she says of course she knew. Meanwhile, Red Skull lines some napalm along the doorway. When the sparks from the door getting broken into ignites it, all the cult members are lit on fire. Then the two run further into the armory. That's a real good idea. Hide in the place next to the place with guns, explosives, bullets, which is also on fire. Meanwhile, Cap and Bucky stop a Razzie army invasion of New York. They race to a commandeered radio station, beat some Nazis, one of whom tells Cap where Hitler is, and then they chase the fleeing Nazi up the stairwell and past the guy singing the Friends theme song. Did you know that by the last 2 seasons of Friends, the main actors were getting paid $1 million an episode? Cap and Bucky reach the roof of the Twin Towers and discover a giant airship. Bucky climbs up the little ladder, and he's like, "Forget Hitler, Cap! We need to see what's going on up here." When Cap reaches the top, he finds Zemo tying Bucky to a plane. Cap jumps after the plane, rewires it, and sends it flying back inside the airship. They find no one, and make their way to the controls, where Cap tells Bucky to contact Fury and his commandos. Bucky asks if he's sure they should go to the front lines. I mean, after all, that is where the Nazis want them. And Cap's like, "Then we'll teach them to be careful what they wish for." In the real world, Carter and Skull watch the cube.
"The time is almost upon us, Carter. You have served the mission well, and for that, you will be rewarded."
You turn my stomach. I can't believe I fooled myself into believing an ex-Nazi with a giant red skull. Give me that cube!
And then Red Skull punches her in the face like a Wes Anderson movie.
"I rescind my offer. Now stay quiet, you cow. The end game approaches."
Meanwhile, in World War Cube, Cap and Bucky speed across the front lines on a sweet Japanese motorcycle. Accompanying them are Namor and the original Human Torch. The original Human Torch was an android who was part of the World War II fighting group called the Invaders. Cap drives straight to the door of Hitler's bunker when he calls back to Bucky and discovers he's standing in the middle of the open.
Don't do this, Cap.
This is the reason I was created. I have to bring Hitler to justice and put the world to peace, Buck.
Steve, this isn't your world. Your subconscious is breaking through. It's reminding you that this is all a dream. It's trying to warn you. Skull knew you would be tempted to save Erskine and go after Hitler. This whole thing is a trap. The second you destroy whatever is behind that door, you'll be wiped out, and the skull wins. Now fight every instinct you have. Pull yourself and your country free.
Bucky? Bucky, wait, don't go!
I have to, Steve. So long, Steve.
Then Steve prepares to break into the door of Hitler's bunker, and he smashes through the door into the secondary armory room somehow. The skull says that it is impossible to extract yourself from the cube, and then Steve starts beating his red ass. Then he glares down and says, "Tell me something, Skull. Tell me there's a way I won't kill you." Then they both notice the nearby cosmic cube, and Red Skull throws Cap off of him and races for it. So Cap launches his shield and severs the Red Skull's right arm, and the shield hits the cube, causing it to explode. Cap and Sharon then look down at the smoking rubble that was the cosmic cube, and holy shit, Red Skull got Pompeyed! With reality restored, the cultists are then bound, and the formerly evil American troops are now all unconscious. Cap steals a jeep, as Sharon asks about Hitler really being inside the cube. Cap tells her that it doesn't matter, the cube is destroyed and the Red Skull's gone. And if the Red Skull did survive, well, that's just a bridge we'll have to cross in the future. Then Sharon hops in and they drive off into the desert in their nice and cool latex and scale mail armor. Cut to Steve's apartment in Brooklyn. Sharon looks over the place when Commissioner Gordon kicks the door down. They then try to arrest her, but Sharon escapes out of the window and into the city. Then Steve comes home wearing a turtleneck and an overcoat and discovers that these men are from the U.S. Army Criminal Investigations Department. Then they arrest him for treason, and Steve asks if he can make his one phone call, and Gordon, apparently not caring about, I don't know, breaking the law or a lawsuit, says,
I don't know who you think you are or what makes you special, but...
Then an agent comes out of the bedroom with Captain America's uniform, and they all stare at Cap, like, holy shit, why is this? It isn't even October, why does that guy have that costume? Is it a weird sex thing? Speaking of weird sex things, cut to the White House. Captain America meets with President Bill Clinton, and the general from the military base says that Cap can no longer be trusted and plays the battle footage from the event. Clinton asks if this is true, and Cap explains the first arc of this comic. Then the general activates a hologram of the Machine Smith, a known associate of Red Skull, and an old Captain America villain, and Cap asks what Machine Smith has to do with him. And Clinton recalls a mission Cap went on 2 years prior to memorize the data from a dying scientist and take it to the president, and now there's only 2 people on the Earth who know the secret of the Argus anti-aircraft cannon. And those 2 people are Captain America and Bill Clinton. You see, 4 days prior, Machine Smith appeared in a European province called Moldavia with the Argus cannon. This means that the leak to the Machine Smith came from one place. And Clinton asks what Cap traded for his second chance at life. Steve says that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and asks for an opportunity to clear his name, but Clinton says no way, Jose, he just can't take that chance, and reluctantly orders Cap to wait outside. While Cap waits outside, someone watches him from a tree, I guess on the White House lawn. Then Clinton says that he's come to a decision. I can't bring myself to imprison you without due process, Cap, but putting you on trial would affect this country as much as it pains me. I pass unprecedented executive order to defend national security. These papers are for you. Leave your uniform with Monica at the secretary desk. Air Force One will be taking you to Heathrow Airport in London. As of this moment, you are required by law to confine yourself to foreign soil. Steve Rogers, you are no longer an American citizen. Clinton looks away in shame as Cap puts the envelope under his arm, salutes the flag, about faces, and walks out the door. Cap arrives in London and hails a taxi, but then a black-covered hand orders him to come with them. Cap tosses the entirely black-clad assailant away, but discovers it's actually Sharon Carter. Why do you wear that in public? What is wrong with you? You're a super spy and you don't have a better disguise? The two of them then run away. Sometime later, Sharon arrives at a hotel she and Steve are staying at to discover Steve sitting in the dark with a sad little hamburger with a little toothpick American flag stuck in it. Sharon says that she's never seen him like this as she turns the light on, and then she says that she went shopping and got him a new uniform. Then Cap goes to the bathroom and changes, and oh my god, what is this? It looks like she went to Party City and bought one of those off-brand patriotic superhero costumes. Then she straps this big metal bracelet around his wrist that creates a plasma field, aka a shield, and Steve asks where the hell she got all this money from? Where the hell she got all the money to buy this from? And she's like, don't ask. I would assume that you have some sort of, like, one of those little, I don't remember what they're called, one of the little bags that you always see in, like, spy movies where they have passports and all kinds of currencies and whatnot. Like, what are you doing, Sharon? You're not as badass as you think you are. You look like a dominatrix. And not the good kind like the exterminatrix. Then Cap looks at a map of Moldavia and informs Sharon about Machine Smith. Cut to Moldavia, I assume. It's still weird that they use a real country. It seems very un-Marvel-like. Machine Smith sits around with these four
badass cyborg killers
as he orders them to take him out of the picture. Wait, why the hell does Machine Smith have so many screens in his hideout? And they're all framed on his face. On, like, different parts of his face. It would, like, kind of make sense if his
badass cyborg killers
were in, like, a different room or something. But he's right over there. Just turn around and look at him. He's clearly in the same room. Cut to later, on a train in a frozen European country, Nathan Hale, and, I don't know, Jane Doe probably, ride a train to Moldavia. Then those
badass cyborg killers
break inside the train. One tosses Steve out of the window, while the other hangs Sharon out of said window, in the way of the upcoming tunnel. Then,
patriotic superhero
leaps into action. How did he get back into the train? What the fuck is this panel? It clearly shows Steve flying into the snow. Like, that's not one of the
badass cyborg killers.
That's him. How did he... this little panel here shows his hand holding the train. This makes no sense. Who the fuck got pulled out? Was it the conductor? Was it Tom Hanks as the conductor? Sharon gets pulled on top of the train or something, and they fight the four armorigos, and Sharon shoots one with a taser, and it freaks out his suit, causing the red guy to fall off the train to his immediate death in this giant gulch where his body will never be found. Then Steve and Sharon jump off the train and into a snowbank where they run into the mountains and find an American military base. And Cap's like, haha, just what I was looking for. They run towards it when Machine Smith's cyber ops come back guns blazing. Steve and Sharon race through the now exploded fence and fight the soldiers and steal a jet as the cyber ops are arrested. Why? I feel like they could have beaten those soldiers. Then the military of Moldavia targets them with the Argus cannon as Cap waits for the jet's computer to lock on to the exact launch site. Finally, the cannon fires, and Steve gets their location as the plane explodes. Dun dun dun. I wonder if they'll live. Steve skydives after Sharon. See, I told you he goes skydiving. As she falls in her ejector seat, Steve grabs her and tries to free her as they plummet to the ground, until finally he just busts out his plasma shield and uses it to smash open the parachute ejection controls. Don't know if that's such a smart idea, but apparently it was, because it saves both of their latex-bound asses. With the descent slowed, Steve is able to safely take his time and free Sharon, and then they hop away into a nearby tree as the seat crashes into a frozen lake. Later, Steve finds a nice cozy little cave for them to spend the night in before they go to the coordinates of the Argus cannon. And Steve is like, hey, maybe we should sleep together to pull our body heat and pool our body heat. And what is wrong with his face? I don't like it. I think it's his giant gray eyes and stern look. Sharon declines his offer. Sharon declines his offer. The next morning, she wakes up from her dreams to discover an American scout party. She fights them and runs outside, where Steve rocks up in a stolen Humvee. And then they book it. Jesus, this is like that 1990 Captain America movie where he just keeps carjacking people.
Hey! Captain! Are you okay? Yeah. Hold it! No, wait. Don't leave me out here!
They pull up to the coordinates of the Argus cannon, and for some reason,
Patriotic superhero.
is still wearing his mask even though he's supposed to be disguised. And Sharon pulls out a handgun and prepares to shoot the guard at the front gates of this, I don't know, I guess it's the Moldavian military base. And she tells Steve to floor it when he hears the bang. And Steve's like, "What?" and knocks her hand away, and she shoots into the roof. Steve's like, "What the hell is wrong with you? You were gonna shoot him!" Well, duh, they're our enemies. We have one chance to recover from this mess, so hit me as hard as you can. So Steve takes out all of his pent-up rage and anger on Sharon, and he looks down at his fist like, holy shit. Sharon plays the victim as the guards of the base run up, and then she attacks them as Steve runs off to find the cannon. He reaches it and stabs his plasma shield into it, causing it to explode. He's shot away into the snow, and Sharon runs up to him and gives him mouth-to-mouth, and then he actually starts kissing her, which is kind of weird. But never give someone mouth-to-mouth. It doesn't work. You're not giving them air or oxygen. You're just blowing carbon dioxide into their mouth. Then she punches him and he gets up and a smoke grenade lands next to them and goes off. Later,
Patriotic superhero
wakes up tied next to Sharon and the Machine Smith's hideout to find a room of identical bald men in yellow jumpsuits. Machine Smith explains that he's using the international affair with the Moldavians and the Americans to get them all into the same place. Then Steve breaks himself free of the rope chair and grabs Machine Smith.
Sure, destroy this frail robot body. If you will, I shall leap my consciousness into any electronic form.
Then Machine Smith explains that he sent all of himself into Steve's brain one time using, I guess, Stark's combat suit to find the specs of the Argus cannon. But that's not all. He also has remote control codes to a helicarrier, which he promptly shuts down, causing it to fall out of the sky. Then with a maniacal smile, Machine Smith reveals he's encoded everything in Steve Rogers' mind into this little gold coin token that looks like you take it to an arcade. Meaning that he knows everything from helicarrier access codes to secret White House entrances to Avengers priorities to Hawkeye's shoe size? Why does Cap know that? And on one of the giant screens, Steve watches the helicarrier go down, and on the other he watches live news footage from Camp David and discovers a certain red-headed man in the crowd. Sharon begins to take control of the helicarrier and starts decoding the coin as Steve loses his shit, destroys some monitors, climbs into a ventilation system, and gets outside. Later,
Patriotic superhero
appears at large fortified gates, and for some reason he's ripped his shirt off. Steve walks through the snow and eventually enters the capital city of Latveria. Some Doombots come down and take Steve to Castle Doom, where he finds Doctor Doom.
Patriotic superhero
Reveals that war is about to break out between America and a neighboring country, which would not be good for Latveria. Steve tells Doom to use his diplomatic immunity to send him back to America to stop all this. And Doom, he agrees. I mean, why not? That just means that Cap owes Doom a favor. And he says that he'll ready his private airship with everything Cap needs inside of it in 10 minutes. At Camp David, the president meets with the Moldavian, president, premier, whatever, as the Machine Smith rocks up, and a Secret Service agent runs up to him. He's like, "Hey, get away from here." Then another man runs up behind that agent and snaps his neck, and is then shot down by Secret Service snipers, and then shit starts hitting the fan. Machine Smith then steals the briefcase, which controls America's nuclear arsenal, and then jacks the codes from Clinton's brain, when from the wreckage of a downed helicopter, Captain America steps through smoke and fire. I love that Doctor Doom apparently either stole or recreated Cap's uniform and shield. Machine Smith orders himself to open fire, and Cap charges into battle. Captain America battles the androids as his fake shield begins to break. Why did Doctor Doom have a fake Captain America uniform and shield? Has he recreated other superheroes' outfits and accessories? Does he dress up like Reed Richards and make a woman dress up as Sue Storm? And then he makes a third guy dress up like Doctor Doom and cucks himself? Cap grabs Machine Smith, but he transfers his consciousness into a comp nuker, and Cap grabs it and tosses it into a nearby gas tank, and it explodes. Then Clinton stands overlooking the aftermath, salutes Cap, who salutes him back. Later in the Oval Office, Clinton thanks Captain America on behalf of the nation, says that his record has been cleared, and gives him back his shield. But before that, Clinton tries, holding it to himself, because, I mean, come on, that's Captain America's shield, who wouldn't try it out? And that's it, basically. There's one other issue about Sharon and Steve overthrowing some corrupt government in this Asian country, and, I don't know, they, almost kiss and whatever, but it's not really that important. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is. Make sure you like the video, and leave a comment on what you thought of the story, and if you have any recommendations, make sure to let me know below. I also host a Tom Cruise related podcast that comes out every third of the month. So make sure to check that out at most podcast and social media platforms at the Cruising Altitude Podcast. I'll see you next time. Bye.